This is Michelle, and this is my husband, Rob.
Hello.
And I wanted to get his perspective on the whole TFMR experience because I don't think men get to talk about it much. So
I still don't know what TFMR stands for. I just know
termination for medical reasons.
Termination for medical reasons. Okay. So I'm trying to bring myself back to that moment.
Do you want me to help you?
Yeah. What was the moment that we first heard? We were in the ultrasound
room, but I was freaking out before anything happened. Like I was like a nervous wreck before we even knew.
Well, yeah, the whole time she knew something was wrong even from the moment she looked at the pee stick.
Yeah, from the pregnancy test.
Yeah, the pregnancy test.
But then, how did you feel when the sonographer was scanning?
I remember telling you that her facial expressions, remember?
Yeah.
They were really like, almost like someone died. Like her expressions were just extremely upset, like horrified, almost like a horror movie.
Yeah, and she didn't want to say much at all.
She didn't want to say much. She just brought the doctor in.
Yeah.
And he double checked what she said, and then I knew something was wrong, right?
Yeah.
And then I said, when the doctor said that the baby had one kidney and a hole around this heart area, and also the fluid in the brain, it was like someone punched me in the gut. It was like really.
Yeah. I felt that too. I was afraid to look at you because I knew you were probably really upset. And if you remember, I was worried about you the whole time.
Well, yeah, I mean, I didn't like burst out crying or anything.
Well, no,
but
you were upset.
I felt upset. I was just lost in thought for like a good 5 minutes.
And then they just rushed into the amnio.
And then all of a sudden, everything happened so quickly. I didn't even expect that they would come in and suggest the amniocentesis right away.
They didn't even really give me an option on it.
No, they just kind of like
did it.
They just almost decided for us.
Yeah.
Because they just said it was necessary. It was like urgent.
Yeah.
That we checked to make sure. But it did make sense. Like, we wouldn't say no.
No, but when I read over the notes later on, I was kind of disappointed that they didn't really go over everything with me professionally the way they should have. But maybe they figured I was in shock. I don't know. But then after that, we tried to stay optimistic for a while. We did.
Yeah. We were trying to see. The thing is, we didn't want to terminate it, actually.
No, we didn't want to.
We were thinking of every scenario where we could, because the doctor said to us like this. He didn't suggest termination right away. He said, well, even if this is not a chromosomal issue, we would have to figure out how to treat these, I forget the word he used. Congenital anomalies. Thank you, yeah. Like the fluid in the brain and stuff. You could put a stent in the cerebrospinal fluid so it can drain out or whatever.
Yep.
So we were thinking, okay, are we going to have to do this? So as we were hearing all this stuff, like I was thinking, I really don't want to do that. I mean, I really didn't want to have to go through. I didn't imagine myself having a child who would have developmental issues or like any type of physical issues or mental issues. Because I was picturing in my mind that our child would have like brain damage or have developmental delays and all those problems. So that's like my worst nightmare.
And I was trying to be optimistic like during the time, because the problem when you're in a marriage and you're trying so hard for a kid, the one thing that you have to do is you have to be on agreement with things. So I was trying to make sure we were on agreement with everything, because I couldn't expect him to deal with something he wasn't able to deal with. But if it was my motherly instinct, like I told him, I was like, I would, wouldn't matter to me as long as it could live. But then when the prognosis came back that it couldn't live either way, you kind of felt relief because you had so much stress about it.
Because I didn't want to deal with that, actually. I even told Michelle, I even told you that, that I said if it came to, even if a child had chromosome trisomy 18 and all that stuff, I said, I don't know if I could deal with it, having to do that.
Which is like a personal choice.
That's me. Like, I know other people would feel completely different, but that's just me. I would have a really hard time with it.
And then my problem was that personally,
Mhm.
I wouldn't have which I told you, I wouldn't have a problem with it. Personally, I would be okay with
Yeah.
thinking of anything. I'd be okay with having a kid with any special need or anything like that. But then as a wife, I have to worry about you and your mental, you know what I mean? Like, you have to do it jointly. And I feel like when we're trying to get pregnant, you're focused more on like having a positive pregnancy test and getting that experience, that you're not really thinking about things that could happen when you do there wasn't even in our mind that anything like this could happen up in the front. Like, I mean, I was super negative and felt like something was wrong from the beginning, but I don't think we ever thought it would be.
I didn't think so. I thought that you were being over dramatic, or I thought you were being like, what's the word I'm thinking of? Like, negative for no reason.
Negative Nancy?
Yeah, I thought you were being kind of paranoid the whole time.
Yeah, you
but
really
the funny
did.
thing is that her instincts were correct. It's the motherly instincts.
I don't know why I felt something was wrong. Because the baby looked perfect. Like, the baby looked like there was nothing wrong at all.
Yeah.
And it just still to this day surprises me that.
But then when we got the body scan, then that's when we found out that stuff, and it was just it was hard to deal with. But then when we found out that it had, so what happened was we got the amniocentesis results that came back.
It came back in a while. It came back like 2 weeks
later. It took 2 weeks, which is like the worst. Waiting, just the worst part. Just waiting to see what the results would be.
Yeah.
That was so stressful, just waiting.
Well, because also you have to remember at that time I was going on like TikTok and I was looking at videos of like, you know, cases where the diagnosis was like major hydrocephaly that was okay at birth, and I was trying to convince him, like, see, this could all be okay, everything can be fine, don't worry about it. But then I was also stressed too, like, well, what if I'm wrong? Like, what if I'm pushing him towards being okay with something and then I'm wrong? But that 2 weeks was very stressful. And then when we found out.
And then the mentally gymnastics going back and forth, is it okay if it is, and here's what we would do if it's not, and like all the different scenarios that could happen. So then we found out, we got a call from the genetic counselor.
It was, well, yeah, the thing is we got the call right after I had a meeting with her. So I basically had a meeting with her going over what the amniocentesis would result in. And right after she got done telling me she didn't think it was going to have any of the major chromosome things like trisomy 21, trisomy 18, trisomy 13, and she explained that it was tested for those, and if it was anything else, like something with chromosome 1 or triplet E or something with chromosome 15, it would have miscarried by now. So she was set that it was like a micro deletion. And then as soon as I got off Zoom with her, that's when I got the call that it was triplet E. So she was wrong.
Yeah, she was wrong. She said that she learned through the whole process that this isn't a scenario that she hasn't encountered before, because the whole time she thought it was something else, and then she discovered that it was triplet E.
Yeah.
But then we looked it up, and that's a condition where the child never survives more than a couple hours after birth if you were to go to full term with it. So then...
but when we went to get the TFMR, the baby had like no amniotic fluid and it wasn't going to make it. Like the doctor said it's a good thing that he came now. Cause... Yeah.
We already decided at that point that we should have the TFMR because she kept getting sicker and sicker.
Yeah,
she
getting
just
really
felt
sick.
Really more and more like crap.
Yeah.
And I was worried about her, and I thought she was having preeclampsia. So I know that could result in like your organs failing and all these things that could happen. So I said, it doesn't make sense to carry a baby to term that's not even going to survive anyway. So this is one of those situations where I think termination is the correct thing to do.
Well, because it's not going to live either way. And I told him I was relieved that it was something, and I know this sounds awful, like if I could pick what to have, I would rather have a baby that lived and was fine, and I wished something could have been done to help it, but I was relieved that if it was going to be something, it was something that was just not viable. Because like I explained to him, if it was anything that was viable, it would have been a big conflict between me and him, because it would have been harder for me to terminate it, even if it could live and it would have had to be a deeper discussion. We wouldn't have been able to be like that easy, because I would have had to then be okay with it in my heart. But so I explained even to my parents was that I couldn't be okay with something that was going to hurt him in some way, because we're supposed to be a unit,
Okay, yeah.
They made it easier when it was gonna be something.
Yeah. So then that whole process was really. Do you want to talk about that too? Like how the whole TFMR experience from my point of view?
Yeah, how's that from your point of view?
Like we're waiting in a waiting room, and then we have to talk to somebody. The guy explained to us how we have to put these laminaria sticks in the cervix, and I mean, I didn't have to go through any of this, so I didn't have to deal with all the pain. But you had to deal with all the pain, and that's not fun. And I've never seen her in so much pain.
I have a pretty high pain tolerance, I must say.
They did it right in front of me. I was there holding her hand while she was getting this done. They put these seaweed sticks, is what they are,
lamera,
into the cervix and they kind of hold water and they expand and they slowly open up the cervix so that the abortionist could, whatever you want to talk, I guess the abortionist, right, to take the fetus out, right?
Yeah.
So not only did they have to they put 3 sticks in the first time, the day before the procedure, and then the day of the procedure in the morning, they put another 4 in.
That was rough, yeah.
Because, her cervix, she never gave birth, so I guess she needed more time to kind of dilate.
It was too tiny.
Yeah, so.
It's a rough experience. It really.
But then,
it really is.
You were telling me how, like, the girls in there in that operating room are all like throwing up and shaking and convulsing in pain because they're.
Yeah.
Not only is it the things that they put in there, well, for some of the girls didn't have to do that. Right.
It was more
but they had to take the abortion.
And it makes you really nauseous, which is why I did a video telling everyone that after they take the ones that dissolve in their mouth to ask for the Zofran, because it makes you unbelievably nauseous. And luckily I knew that, so I had the medication go like right into my IV. But when I woke up, there were girls who were puking and like convulsing. It was just crazy. It's just crazy experience.
I mean, people don't talk to you about that. It's not fun. It's not.
No.
It's a lot of pain. I mean.
But with that being said, this has opened our eyes up to the whole like abortion regulations by state, which I think are ridiculous because.
Well, no, I mean that there's a Texas situation that just happened.
It's not just Texas; it's everywhere.
But it's everywhere. But that's the most recent one I saw. That there's a girl who had a similar situation to us, and she had they wouldn't allow her to get the termination, and it was actually putting her life at risk too. I think.
Well,
right?
yeah, but
and she had to leave the state in order to get it done.
Yeah, but I feel like there's too many states that have these strict regulations without really looking into. It's basically I think a bunch of lawmakers making laws without looking into why people most of the time get second term terminations. Most of the time, if people are getting a termination just because they want a termination, it's never in the second trimester. I mean, you have to go through some hellish pain to have a termination in the second trimester. It's almost always because the baby isn't viable. So to put a woman through that, to make her have to leave the state, and to make her have to go through all that,
while she's dealing with all this,
all the emotional
stress and
stuff,
emotions and all this stuff,
it's just awful.
It's not right.
No, it's not. It's torture.
I don't think it's right. I felt differently before all this stuff happened, but
so
now that I've experienced it and we've experienced it, my point of view is a little different than it was now.
Mine is too, because I used to think that you would find out if anything was wrong by like 12 weeks. I used to think that like, oh, well, you should be able to find it, but no, a lot of times you don't find out till the anatomy scan.
Anatomy scans at 20 weeks, isn't it?
Yeah, and which is
second trimester.
Yeah, it's like.
So they would say, oh, second trimester abortion's cruel and it's the worst thing and this and that. But like girls who are having abortions or who just don't want to have the baby, even though it's a healthy baby, they're having abortions in the first trimester anyway.
They're having it first trimester. It's not as invasive. If you're going to go through the second trimester, it's not just because you don't want the baby. It's not as simple as that. It's always because of. And the thing that I realized is that postpartum depression is very common and it happens with the hormone drop. So for them to want you to carry to term and to then deal with giving birth to a baby that's not viable and then dealing with postpartum, that's putting women's mental health at risk. Because you saw how I'm a mess even now. And it's only 22 weeks. I'll cry randomly, have anxiety. So
yeah, I mean it's emotionally distressing. The whole situation.
So it's an eye opener.
Yeah, I'm just. I'm glad it's over. I want to look to the future. We want to have a baby. We want to do a healthy baby, and
start over, start fresh.
Start it.
So we're gonna do another video on IVF.
Okay.
And then, so we'll be back.
Do you want me to stop it?
Yeah, you can stop it. I don't have to get up.
Okay.